when you turn a spinning reel handle one time, the spool goes around 5 times. A reel only goes around once. The real problem is endurance. If you're right-handed, you should really wind your reel with your right hand. Now, I've had guys in their 60s say, look, I've been winding left-handed for 30 years and I can wind better than I can. Okay. When I have a clinic, I have 2 reels that are identical. One right-handed, one left-handed one. I take them both out, stretch them out, and I always take some of the backing in addition to that out. So I've got the fly line maybe 30 feet back. I look at my watch and say, okay, get ready. Nobody that used to wind left-handed can wind that much line faster than they could with their dominant hand because you get tired.
The dominant hand is the right.
Dominant hand is the right hand. If you're right-handed,
yeah,
you want to wind right-handed. If you're left-handed, you want to wind left-handed. Yeah, well, I got a sign in my office that says that lefties have rights too. That's right, Brian. So really, you really should learn to wind with your right hand. So when you're winding reels, it's not a case of whether you can do it; it's how long can you do it. That's the big thing.
Like everything in life.
That's right. You know what that means. Let me talk a little bit about knots. The most important thing you want to learn about any knot, whether you're tying a 2-inch rope hawser up to a steamship at a dock, or you're tying an 8X tip, high-speed photography has shown that no knot breaks until it slips. That's the single most important thing you want to know about. The reason bimini twists don't break is they don't slip. What happens is that if you got wraps around the main line, when the main line begins to slip, it builds heat. And that's what breaks your knot. It's when the knot slips. You can take a knot that's not too well designed and tie it really good, and then tie a well-designed knot and not tie it as good, and the well-designed knot will fail before the one that's pulled tight. So the most important thing in all of your knots is it go tight. For example, after you tie a fly on your line, if you would just hook it in here and just pull on this, like on dry flies, you get many more fish now on very small dry flies. If you have a little 22, you can't hold it and make sure that it's tied tight. But if you just hooked it in here and put a finger, now you can really pull it tight because this is holding the fly. The key here is that of all the knots you ever tie, if you can tie them tight enough to keep them slipping, they ain't going to break. So that's the most important thing in all knots. Okay, the second thing is that what's important is how you tie knots. For example, that's 16 here. And I think most of you know how to tie, and I'm not going to show you how to tie knots, I'm just showing you the ideas here. And you can't see what I'm doing with this monofilm if you simply say so. But anyway, you know how most people make a surgeon's knot. How many of you know a surgeon's knot? Okay, most of you tied it wrong. First of all, you know how you go around, you make a loop, and then you take the ends through twice. You don't have to do that. If you go around twice and through once, it's the same knot. If you go around twice and through once, it's exactly the same knot. Do that again. Instead of going around once and through take both tag ends through, see what we normally do is do it and we go through twice. Instead of doing that, just go around here 1, 2, and take these 2 ends through one time, and you have now tied a much faster surgeon's knot. But here's what's important about these. Wet all knots. Now I'm really going to pull this down good and tight, and this will break probably real easy. Now I'm going to tie the same knot, and it won't break easy. This is a big mistake people make with surgeons. I'm going to tie the same knot. And this one will be very difficult to break. Not going to change anything. Just put this here, go around twice, through once, and lubricate the knot, pull it tight. Now, what I'm going to do, what I did the last time, which is what you all make a big mistake on surgeon's knot, you pulled the two main lines really tight. You didn't pull the two short ones. And you can lose up to 60% of the strength of this knot because the short ones are not real tight and the knot slips and cuts itself. Now, pull on that one and pull on this one. And now I have trouble breaking that knot. I gained 60% by pulling all four ends instead of just two ends. A lot of people, if you want a triple surge knot, go around 3 times the trail. But this is an important thing about tying this knot. Another thing about tying knots is that
is the triple surgeon's knot really better or worse than double?
Triple surgeon's knot is best in line 8-pound or less, and not as good in 10 or more. And the reason is, when you do with the larger diameter lines, if you do 3 turns, you usually don't get everything tight enough. I got a knot testing machine that has no opinion, and it says that if you tie in larger diameter with triple surgeon, it's probably going to break. But in the small stuff, you can put enough pressure on it to really bring it down.
When you tighten that double surgeons, you must do the long and shorts independently.
No,
you can do all 4.
Just so you pull all 4 in. Good
2
question.
and 2.
You could pull on a short and long, a short and long, 2 longs, 2 short. Just so all 4 are pulled. That's a good question. Yeah.
How about the fluorocarbon? Anything special?
Well, the first thing is, I've been an outdoor writer since '51 and a fly fisherman since '47. And every couple of years, somebody comes along with something that if you buy what they're selling, you'll catch more fish. Fluorocarbon is not that much of an advantage, except for the only place I've ever thought, and I haven't proven, that fluorocarbon might have an advantage is in tuna. Tuna have such sharp eyes that I think maybe it might make a difference. But in anything else, no. If you guys, old-timer trout fishers, remember the braided leader thing that was here a couple of years ago? Well, who buys braided leaders anymore? Now they got a furrow leader, which is another gimmick. I would not waste, if you're going to buy fluorocarbon, don't buy the whole leader. Trout don't run up leaders looking at the thing, they just see the end anyway. So if you're going to use fluorocarbon, just use it in a tip. Another thing is, where do you get 90% of your knots in a tapered leader? You get them in the tippet. I never make my tippets longer than 18 inches because it's the tippet, the part that's floppy and weak, that's going to turn over and get your knot. So if your tippet, the actual tippet being the last piece, if it's 18 inches or less, the fish are still going to take the fly. I'm not talking about dry fly now, we're talking about regular tapered leader. You're not going to catch any fewer fish and you're going to end up with a whole lot less knots. Fluorocarbon, another people think about fluorocarbon, people say fluorocarbon has greater abrasion resistance than monofilament. The most important factor in abrasion resistance is diameter, not the material. If you got a 6-pound monofilament that's super thin, and you've got one that's pretty thick, what they do is they drag those across the cylinder that's got sandpaper on it, and they got a counter down here. Whichever one breaks first, they count that, and then the other one keeps going, they count that. If you got a fat 6-pound and a skinny 6-pound, and you run them across sandpaper, the skinny one's going to go through before the thick one. If you want to compare abrasion resistance, you really have to compare the diameter. Your fluorocarbon is, if you buy a 12-pound fluorocarbon, it's the diameter of 15-pound monofilament. It's one size larger than your nylon. So what you're really you're comparing things that aren't the same. There really isn't that much difference in the abrasion resistance of it. I would not waste my money on fluorocarbon. If you like it, you know, Good. Bamboo rods are the most inefficient rods we have. But if you like fishing bamboo, hell, that's why you're doing this, is because you like to do it, so use bamboo. It isn't what the best for everyone, it's what you like to do. But I wouldn't waste money on fluorocarbon on that. It's like trout fishing. The two best trout fishermen I've ever met, and I've fished with Whitlock and Gary LaFontaine and Gary Porter and all these guys, and they're all great fishermen, but the two best trout fishermen I ever fished with, the guy John Goddard from England is the best trout fisherman I ever fished with. He's not only good on streams, but he knows reservoirs and lakes and all that. The best one in this country is George Harvey. He's about 95 years old now, but most of these guys said that if you can use 5x leader and you can get it through the hook eye, you don't need anything heavy. Now, people say, well, I tried 5x leader material and it didn't work, so I put a 6x on it and trout hooked fly. I don't know if you know how to figure diameter, but you subtract the x from 11 thousandths. So if you subtract 5x from 11 thousandths, you get 6,000 an inch. If you subtract 6x from 11 thousandths, you get 5,000 an inch. So 6x is 1,000th of an inch finer than 5x. And trout ain't got eyeballs like that. What happens is it's very slightly limper and probably fell in softer weight. Had you increased the length of your 5x leader, it would have fallen in the same waves. I hardly ever use any tippet material smaller unless I can't get it to hook. That's the only difference for that.
Yes. For the hell of it, the cellophane wrap on a pack of cigarettes is 1,000th inch thick.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I'm telling you that people complicate this thing way beyond. There's only there's only three things fish want. They want some groceries, something to eat. They want a place to rest and a place to hide from predators. Once you figure those three things out, most of it, you don't need to unarm fur orangutan from South Africa mixed in with Australian possum and some synthetic blend to catch a fish. They don't know all this stuff. What they really want, you can use about 8 dry flies in different sizes all over the world. And most of the time, parachute dry flies will catch you more fish than the Catskill type. Catskill type flies are where they wind the hackle around its way, and a hackle stick thing. They don't even look like an insect. And a lot of times their body is high off the water. A mayfly sits on the water. If you have a parachute hackle, the body sits flat on the water, and you can also use cheaper hackle to make these, and you're going to catch more fish with them. We've complicated this thing. You don't have to know that. If there's a little brown hummer that's hatching out on the water, get a little brown fly about the same size, and as long as you got those waves in there, you're probably going to catch trout. Now, if they start fishing on some big gray hummer, you switch to a big gray. But you don't need the snaggletooth gumbo huzzy that's got 4 different. This business about having these colored charts. First of all, look at the sky. Look at something in the sky. Everything is silhouette. The trout don't see 19 colors on a fly. They see maybe that it's a light, like a sulfur might have a light body, or something like the Henderson might have a darker body, but they don't see all these shades of color. Now, if you like all of that, that's fine. There's 3 phases in fishing, whether you fish for bass, stripers, largemouth, or trout. First, when you start fishing, you got a little bit of tackle. You got a limited number of lures or flies. You're listening to everybody, and you'll tell anybody anything you want to know. Then you become an experienced fisherman. Now you got more damn flies and lures than you can imagine, all kind of rods and reels. You ain't listening to nobody. You know it all. You ain't telling nobody anything. Then you're the 3rd stage fisherman. Now you know that a certain number of flies or lures are going to do the job. You're using a limited number of tackle, which you're very familiar with. You listen to everybody, and you tell anybody anything you want to know. You make a circle on this thing. And if I ever meet a guy that says, well, I can't tell you what I caught this fish on, I know that guy's a 2nd stage fisherman. So I don't worry about it. There's a real good story I tell about people. Many years ago, I started collecting material for knots. I can't tell you why I did this. Back in the 50s, and I tied 90 blood knots. And I broke 30 of them right away. Broke 36 weeks later, broke the rest of them a year later. What I wanted to know is if you tie all these knots and you don't use them until next year, under contortion, does that lose any strength? Turned out they only lost 2%, and I think that might be the story. The point was that I had got a whole lot of this stuff, and I went up to see Mark Sosin, a friend of mine, and we went in to visit Nick Lyons, who was just getting into the publishing business, and I told him about all this stuff. And he said, that makes a good book. And so he said, if you get it out in 6 weeks or 6 months, we'll have a book. Well, I got Mark to come down and write the stuff up. I learned to photograph monofilm and made a book. Nick told us you can only use 40 knots. You'd had the cable from Marlin and 8X for Trout. Well, when the book came out, we had the 40 knots. Every Hummer for the next 15 years that had a damn knot that wasn't in that book showed me his knot. So I am now a world expert on knots. And I don't need to know all these damn knots. Most of them weren't good anyway. But the point is, I'm really a world expert in these knots. I'm telling young writers. So one time I went to Long Beach, California, and I showed 9 ways to put a leader on a fly line. All of them took 2 or 3 minutes. I didn't know anybody could do 9 ways. I thought I had done a good job, and I said, any questions? The little kid in the first row, about 12 years old, put his hand up. I said, yes, son. He said, I think I got a better way. I said, well, get up here and show us. So that's where we learned the speedy nail knot. He walked up, put the needle, fly line like that. In 10 seconds, he tied a nail knot. The world expert turned around and said, forget them damn 9 ways I showed you. Let's find out what this kid did. And my point is, I don't care what, if you're a world expert, everybody knows things you don't know. So keep your mind open all the time. It's amazing how much you can learn. Like somebody say, well, I caught that thing on such and such. And a lot of guys say, oh yeah, they don't have any clue what that is. Not me. I said, what the hell is such and such? I want to know that. So keep your mind open on this stuff. Now, let me talk a little bit more about knots. So let's got questions. Anything, if you don't ask, it's your fault. There's a thing, I know you can't see this, and I forgot my ropes, or I would have had them with me. Yeah, that was my fault. Both old.
No, and I have them all.
Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of them too.
Yeah.
Almost all knots are either nail knots, overhand knots, or clinch knots, or a combination of those. If you think about it, the surgeon's knot is 2 overhand knots that you closed. A blood knot is 2 clinch knots. A Duncan loop or uni knot is a clinch knot. There are many kinds of clinch knots. How many times that you tied a blood knot or some kind of clinch knot and you got down so far it wouldn't go to the button? You just couldn't get it to close. That's because you didn't do one thing. You may not be able to see this, but I can describe it. I apologize for not bringing it. I'm just going to make an ordinary clinch knot because they're all the policy the same. I'm going to make some wraps here. Now remember, no knot breaks till it slips. And I put this back through here. Now, I don't know if you can see this from the back, but what I've done, there's a big gap here between the twist and the piece of the tag that went through. If you try to tighten this now, you not only have to bring all this down to here, but you've got to bring this down too. This big gap in here. Anytime you make a blood knot, a clinch knot, a Duncan loop, or any kind of knot that's a clinch, wet this and pull that down so that that big gap is gone and it lies against the coils. And I don't want to pull this tight, I'll tie a blood knot and show you. Once you've got this thing here out of there, your clinch knot's going to come down easy. So it's a method of tying it. Let me get 2 pieces here, and I'll show you on a blood knot, for example, which is nothing more than 2 clinch knots. Well, that's the one trick on clinch knots.
Does the number of turns matter?
Yeah, it matters a lot because on clinch knots, in 30 pound or more, I only do 3 turns with each.
What happens if you do more?
You have trouble closing.
It won't affect the strength.
No, well, if you can get it down.
Lefty, why tie a blood if we have the surgeons?
Because you can't, first of all, blood knot, a surgeon's knot you're talking about. A surgeon's knot is extremely difficult to do in line stronger than a 40-pound test. In fact, you can't really pull any line down over 20-pound test in your bare hand properly. Right.
Yes.
You need to wrap your hands around something or glove or something. So the blood knot really is a better knot in the heavier monofilm. Now, a lot of people had trouble with the blood knot not on the first wraps. I know you all can't see this, but I can describe it for you. This is all 30-pound stuff. When you put this back through this wrap and make these other wraps, you have trouble getting back in that hole. Okay, here's what you do. Once you've made your 3 wraps and put this, or wraps and put it through here, clench this together and pull that up and pinch it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but now what I have is a big hole there. See, I've got a great big hole here. I don't know if you can see this one. Now if I make my wraps, and I'm going to make 3 of them.
Is that your typical blood, 3 and 3?
No, that's on 30 pound or more. Yeah, talk about it. Now, but the point is, I have now got this big hole here, you see, and so I can easily put this thing through that hole like that. Now, what I want to show you is when you're tying this knot, you see these gaps here? That's what's causing your trouble. So, pull it down. Now pull this one to get the gap out. Pull this one so everything lays flat. That's 30 pound, it'll come down beautiful. That's the problem we have with these knots, with clinch knots. If we leave that tag in and leave a hole there, we're going to have trouble. Okay? There is a knot.
On the clinch knot, also, you didn't improve that one, you?
Oh, you don't ever improve the blood. You don't.
No, clinch knot.
Well, no, I was just showing you how all clinches work. So there's about 10 clinches, yeah.
I have problems when I tie a blood knot with a really light monofilament, like for trout fishing. It's very hard to keep the, you make a hole, you make that hole and you pull one side through, and then you want to go through the other.
That's what I was just saying. But if, you know what, if it's less than 10 pound, I use surgeon's knots. I don't even use blood knots on the lighter stuff. I use surgeon's knots because it's actually a stronger knot.
Well, there's one reason I use it. There's a certain instrument that I use. You want it to come out this much.
People say, well, if you tie a surgeon's knot, there's a little curve in the line. Trout don't run up the line. Leaders looking at knots. It doesn't make any difference where it's perfectly straight this way or set off. Jack, that don't make any difference.
There's a tool for it.
What's that?
There's a tool available. You know, it's a...
Yeah, but I don't believe in tools unless you have to have it, really.
Well...
Although that one he's got, the one line, I use. But that's a great tool. You don't need any tools for that stuff. And I would, in the smaller leaders, I would just use a surgeon's knot. Let me talk about leaders for a minute because I think this is one of the places where there's really some big mistakes.
Okay, on that clinch, do you improve your clinch knots?
Yes, I was just showing you that clinch. If you did a clinch knot and improved it, it still takes the gap out. I could have showed you 7 different clinch knots here. But what I'm just showing that any kind of clinch knot, you got to get rid of that. You got to lay that down against the cord. Yeah, but an improved clinch knot's a lousy knot. You shouldn't use it anyway.
That's my question.
All right.
What should we do?
I think you can see this. No, this ain't in the book. Now, here's a button. This is a simple. If you know a clinch knot, in fact, this art is going to be, I think, in the next article, Fly Fisherman. This knot. Well, first of all, you don't want to test the knot. You don't need no equipment. All you need 2 pair of pliers, 2 hooks, and a monofilament. If she has a knot she's been using for a long time, and she likes it, and I say, no, I think I got a better knot. She goes home. She ties her knot in one end of monofilament. She ties my end in the other monofilament. You take 2 pair of pliers and you jerk it. So many knots are tied by companies on what they call in-strong testers. They tie the knot, and the in-strong tester goes chuck, 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 chuck. Fish don't go chuck, 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 chuck. They go surging against it. It's the jerk knot you want. Now, if Murphy has this knot, and she ties her knot in one end and ties mine the other, and take 2 pliers and jerk them. You do that 10 times, you don't need no fancy equipment to know whether that's a better knot. So anytime and you try this knot, try it when you get home, and you will find right away. First of all, you use extra amount when you put it through the hook eye. Just like you tie a clinch knot, but use more. Don't worry about it because you're going to draw it all back through anyway, so you're not going to waste it. So all you do is you bring your monofilament through. Damn, sorry to bring this. instead of winding back this way, what you do, can you all see that end back there? No. This end's sticking up. What you,
I have some rope in the car. I might have some rope in my car, right?
yeah. You really ought to know this knot. In fact, it's going to be in Fly Fisherman, the next issue or one after that. Well, it used to be called a fisherman's knot, then it was called a Pythagorean knot, then it was called a 1620 knot, and it's called a fisherman. It's got about 10 names. Actually, I've known this knot since the 50s, and for some reason I neglected to put it in the book, but it's a much better knot than it serves. And it's just as easy to tie. And the other thing is, really an improved clinch knot does not work well in line above 15-pound test. It's very difficult to close it properly. This knot will close at 100-pound test. So it's a very easy knot to tie. And if you know a clinch knot, you already know how to tie this knot. You just tie it a little bit different. When he brings the rope in, I'll show it to you. It's a very, very good knot. And it's very strong. But what I've used Mercy test, tie what you think in one end, tie this one in the other, jerk it 10 times. You'll have you prove yourself whether it's good or not. Oh, that's perfect. Where the hell have you been with all this?
You need to cut it.
Do you mind?
Now his pants are gonna fall down.
Yeah.
This knot is real easy to tie. Boy, that damn thing is sharp.
That's 2 years old.
I don't care about how old they are. Shit. See, that's what I don't want to hear about being old. What you do is put this through the hook eye. Now, can you all see that back there?
Yes.
Okay. Again, use more than you normally need because you're going to draw it back. Now, normally with a clinch knot, you would wrap this thing back toward there. See it? Instead of doing that, all you do is go up here and pinch this together. See it? And then all you do is in 20 pound or more make 3, in less than 20 make 5. What I'm doing is wrapping this line back toward the hook eye. Now, you see this loop up here? You just put that line in that loop. And when you pull that down, I won't pull it real tight because I want to get it out. Just pull this down, slide it down. This knot is far better than an improved clinch. Let me do it again. And it's actually quicker to tie, and it ties better in larger monocones. And if you know a clinch knot, you kind of got this already. What you're doing is putting it through the hook eye just like you would an ordinary clinch knot. And if you, I don't know if any of you get Fly Fisherman magazine, it's going to be a well-illustrated article, either the next issue or one after. Again, use a good bit here because it's all going to go back. Now all you do is just fold this over and just make your wrap 1, 2, 3, and 20 or more, or 5 if it's smaller, and put it right back through that loop right there. Pull it up and pull down. And you see, remember how much that stuff I had, and I still only got a little bit here. Any questions on that thing? Yeah.
Lefty, on that design, that hook, can you leave that a little bit loose so to fly over?
No, that,
You have a loop, yeah.
no, that's the one knot you should know. The knot I use for 90% of my connecting to the hook is a non-slip loop, and I use that in lieu of every other because it's 100% if you tie it, and it doesn't. The one you're talking about is the Dunkin' loop, and the problem with a Dunkin', when you hook a fish, it slides down and jams.
Is that the same as a Apollo?
Well, what happened was I took the Rapala knot and found out it was a lousy knot. My machine found out it was a lousy knot. So I went to work and found out and improved the Rapala knot to what we call the non-slip loop. This knot is very easy to tie once you understand. All you're going to do, first of all, you've got to make an overhand knot in the line before you start. What happens is most people put the line through the hook eye, now you can't make this knot. So what you got to do is you got to make an overhand knot first. Then I'm gonna cut this little pearl off.
Make a little flame one.
Where the hell is it? Oh, there it is. That fur is over there. Now, this knot is easy knot to understand, and it's easy knot to tie, and you can make this loop any size you want. And if you do this correctly, and incidentally, it's on page 654 in our practical fishing knot. You don't want to buy the book for $13, go to the library and copy it in 2 pages, there's no problem. Now, what you got to do first is you got to make an overhand knot in this line before you start to look. Now, if you look at this overhand knot, that knot came out on the bottom. See it? Now, if I had it up here, it came out on the top. You see what I'm saying? It came out of there. Now, you go through the hook eye and back through the same way you came out. So we've made an overhand knot, going back through the same way, hook eye back. Then what you do is make a specific number of turns around here and go back through the overhand knot the same way you came out. And you have.
Are you turning up or are you turning back inside?
No, we're going right back. See that? See those two there? You go back through the same way you came out. So now I'll tie the knot. And there's 2 other things we want to, and incidentally, with 2 turns, you can make this in braided wire just as good. And incidentally, the guys in Australia using tiger wire and all this thinner wire, they found out this is by far the best knot to stand up under really hard pressure, under tune and stuff like that. What I'm going to do is, what's that? That file. You got my damn file?
I've heard of it before.
Lefty, and this knot is called a non-slip?
It's called a non-slip loop. Yeah. Oh, is that it? Oh, it's sink. Yeah, that's a little nap you took. Now, what we did is made an overhand knot. This is the hook. You go through the hook eye the same way that you go through the hook eye. And it doesn't make any difference which way you go through. Now, if you go back, see this came out of the overhand knot that way. If I turn it this way, it'll come out this way. You just go back. Incidentally, if you get this in a book, it's real easy drawing. Then you go back through the same way you came out. Then, all you do is make whatever number of turns that are the right amount, and I can explain that in a minute, around the standing line, and go back through the overhand knot the same way you came out, and you end up, and what you end up with is a loop knot. Now you want this thing to be real small, so we're going to do everything the same and add 2 things. All we're going to do now is we're going to make the overhand knot, go through the hook eye, go back through the overhand knot, but now before we finish the knot, we're going to make a very small loop. By doing this, I'm sure glad David got this piece of rope. You make the overhand knot. Now, when I put this through here and go back through the overhand knot, right now I've got a great big overhand knot, and you could see that if I made wraps here, I'd have a great big loop. So what you do is just catch the 2 of these. Catch the 2 of them together, and if you pull on the long one, it makes the overhand small. See it? And now if you pull on a short one, it goes down to the hook eye. So now I can make my wrap whatever I want to make. And now when I go through back to the hook eye, I'm not sorry, to the loop. You know, we're an old man. Now, when I go back through the overhand knot the same way it came out, this is almost too soft to work with. But look how small this knot is. This was and you can make those down to that far. Now, if you are using, and this is all in that book, and also it's in on a lot of websites.
What's the name of the book?
It's called a non-slip loop. You get it right off the website.
What's the name of the book?
The name of the book is Practical Fishing Knots. It's sold over 300,000 copies in 8 languages. is generally considered the best knot rope. But the point is that if you're using 5 or 8
Available
pound,
in Preston's in Ringport.
what's that?
Available in Preston's.
I don't know yet. But if you're using 6 pound or less, you want to go 7 turns. If you're using 8 to 12, you want to go 5 turns before you put it back through. If you're using 15 to 40, you want to go 4 turns. In other words, the number of turns is critical to them. And if you do it right, you can sit there and break the leader time after time and the loop knot won't break. Another advantage that new guy didn't show you is when you tie it, the tag end points toward the fly. All other loop knots point out that way or sideways and catch grass when you're in the grass.
What's the difference between longer and taller?
It's the number of turns on the knot, on the stand. The Rapala just goes around one time and back through. And it breaks at about 65%. William,
Website, what's the website?
there's a bunch of them, but there's one in Australia. There's an Australian website that is really great. I tell you, look up, if you look up Slim Beauty Knot. Slim Beauty Knot. I ain't going to get into that. But if you look up Slim Beauty, you'll find that's in a website from Australia. And that's the best website for knots I've seen. Yeah, did you?
The Lefty's Little Library still available, or is it sold out?
Lefty Little Library is still available if you want to buy them all, and you can get a big discount on them if you want to buy them. That damn thing started out left, huh?
Who published that?
Odessa Editions in Birmingham. It's a little books like this. The guy started out, it's going to be 14 books. When he got to 20, I said, I thought you told this damn thing Lefty's Little Library. But anyway, there's 25 of them. If you really, I couldn't sell more in men's prison, so I ain't trying to sell you nothing. But if you want a book on fly fishing, Nick Lyons says he thinks it's the finest book for technical stuff that was ever written on fly fishing. It's called Presenting the Fly. I did it about 3 years ago. And if you don't know anything about fly fishing, it will help you. And if you've done fly fishing for a long time, it will help you. And it covers everything from Atlantic salmon to sailfish to brook trout. So you might, if you're really interested in something, and it's incidentally got this knot in there and it's got a whole lot about knots. Let me talk about leaders for a moment, because everybody uses leaders. There is a lot of misinformation about leaders. First of all, you should never use stiff butt section. If there's any beginners here, there's 3 parts to a leader. There is a butt section, which is the heavy part attached to the fly line. Then there's a mid section, and then there's a tippet. And the tippet is generally referred as being the weakest or the first part that's tied to the fly. There is a myth, and it's been propagated for years, same thing about the left hand line and your right hand and all that, that you should use stiff butt material in your leader material. That is totally wrong. The reason it's wrong is this. Your fly line is a flexible weight. The only reason that this line will reach the target is that there is enough flexible weight that it continues to unroll until it gets to the target. And the only way your leader will get to the target is if it has enough flexible weight to continue unrolling to the target. If your fly line straightens, it's going to fall. Your leader just does like that, it's going to fall. It has got to turn over. Here is the most important thing in a leader, tapered leader. We're not talking about dry flies, although that applies. In fact, the one thing I buy Scientific Anglers Mastery Dry Fly Leaders, because they have what I'm going to tell you about, and they turn over better than any dry fly leaders in the world. Your butt section on any tapered leader should be 1/2 the length of your leader. Let's say you're fishing a 10-pound leader out here for bass. Your butt section should be 5 feet. Now it can be off 6 inches, that don't make any difference. What you have then is, as the fly line turns over, you need flexible monofilament. And the best monofilament you buy is Suffix, S-U-F-I-X. Suffix titanium is what it's called. Suffix titanium in 2 independent lab tests is about 4 times better than any monofilament made. You can buy it at Bass Pro, I think Cabela's tells it. Some people, now you don't want just Suffix, you want Suffix titanium. It's made in Taiwan. It has the highest knot strength per diameter of any monofilament made, and it has the highest abrasion resistant of any monofilament made. And it's what I build all my leaders out of. That's what's in this kit right here. And you can get 100-yard spools. That's all you ever need anyway for saltwater flying fish. Anyway, what I use is for 8-weight or smaller lines, 8 or 6 or 7, I use 50-pound butt section. If it's a 9, 50 is okay, but if it's a windy day, I often use 60-pound butt section. So let's build a typical leader. You want a 10-pound leader, and you're going to throw bass, bugs, or clouds, or deceivers, or something that causes a lot of resistance. Make the lead, 10-pound leader, make the butt section 5 feet. Now you can be off 6 or 8 inches, because now you got the flexible weight. And let's say you start with 50 pounds. Okay, you put a piece of 40 pound on, that's maybe 18, 20 inches. It can be all 4 or 5 inches. And then a piece of 30 that's a little bit shorter, a piece of 20, or use 20, just use 20 for tipping. And what you want to end up with, if you've got 5 feet of leader. Now let's put close to 2 feet of 40. You're already at 7 feet. Now you put like 18 inches of 30. You're at 8.5 feet. Put an 18-inch tippet on, and you already got 10 feet. You can adjust that any way you want, as long as that butt section is half the length of the leader. And you would be amazed at how that turns over in the wind. In fact, we can make one here if you want to take it out, and I'll show you how to. But that's the key to this. Now, if you're going to use trout leaders, scientific anglers, mastery taper only is the only one I know that does that.
Yeah, so your leader really should have 4 parts?
Basically about 4 parts.
Yeah. Lefty, what about when you use heavy sinking lines?
When you use heavy sinking lines, you use a very short leader. Like on lead core, most of the time I use just a short piece of 20 about that long. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of things. Tradition's all right as long as it don't stay in the way of progress. And I remember that back in the late 50s, Ted Trueblood, myself, Joe Brooks, and a bunch of us badgered a couple of the line companies into making sinking fly lines. See, they were all supposed to float, but damn near none of them did. But they didn't sink well. Well, when we made sinking lines, we put the 9 and 10 foot leaders on that we always put on floating lines, and we all know that, you know, the line was down here and the leader was up here. So I wrote an article that you ought to use no more than 4 or 5 feet of leader on a sinking line. Boy, the letters we got at the magazine about that's terrible, leaders should be 9 and 10 feet. People fight resistance. When the guy invented the lead eyes, he asked me to write the article up about lead eyes. All them armchair fishermen, Ray tell you're using jigs and all this kind of stuff, you know, and yet I bet you 90% of them today is using clouds or minnows with lead eyes on it. We tend to resist new ideas, so don't resist new ideas. Everything you do, don't be satisfied with it. Try something else. Yeah.
But do you use loop-to-loop from the fly line?
Yeah, I use loop-to-loop. If you get that presenting the fly or you buy that knot book, there's a thing called whip loop in there where you take a bobbin and you pull some line off and wrap 5 times around one leg and you whirl this bobbin, and when you get done, put a needle in and pull, make sure it's strong. It's stronger than the fly line you make it at. The advantage of having whip loops in the front and back end of your fly line, at first you can change them on the reel if you want to. You can also change the leaders. If it's not too windy out right now, I'd probably use a 10, 11 foot leader. Now on a real windy day, I might drop back to 7.5 to 8 foot, and on a real calm day, if you're out on the flats here for stripers, like out at Montauk or somewhere, or Nantucket or something, and it's really calm, use a 10-foot leader, you're going to scare those stripers because of the fly hitting the water. Go to 12 or 14 foot, you catch a lot more fish. So you undo the one that's 10 feet, for the 7-foot butt section on the 14-foot leader, you'd be amazed how that thing turns over in the wind.
How do you attach your sections of leader together? A certain double surgeon's knot?
I use blood knots on anything 30 pounds or higher. And if you go like the 20 to 15 or 20 to 20, you can use a blood knot or a surgeon knot. But on 30 pound, 40 pound, 50 pound, 60 pound, a blood knot really comes down better and secures better than a surgeon knot.
Do you use a loop-to-loop to attach your tippet? In other words,
no. I do that on trout.
but not on,
No, I use straight blood knot or, that's a good point. Every commercial leader you ever buy, the tippet section, like it says 9.5 to 5X or 12 foot to 4X or whatever, the X part or the real fine part is never more than 24 inches. Never. So you buy a leader, costs you $5, $6. You go out here and you tie 6 flies on it. You done chopped up leader. You ain't got no tippet. You ain't got the leader you bought. What I do when I get on trout leaders, and I've been doing this for 25 years, I go, any commercial leader I buy, trout, dry flies, I go to the first 24 inches and cut it off. And I tie that non-slip mono loop on here. So now I've got, let's say it's a 9.5 foot leader, it's now a 7.5 foot leader. Then I put this loop in the end of that. Then I pull off a piece of 5X or whatever I'm going to use, and I make a loop and loop that to there. Now what I've got is a piece of tippet that as soon as it gets short, I can clip it and throw it away and put another piece on it. But if you, I really recommend doing that on your trout leader. And you can use 1 leader a whole season.
the salt water, you don't?
No, I use straight knots.
Rather than a surgeon's loop or a perfection loop?
That's
So you did a non-slip.
Yeah, oh yeah, the non-slip loop is much better than one of the things wrong with perfection loop, you can't give percentage on knots. The reason you can't, I found out the hard way, if I have all 3 of you guys tie a knot, and I test it, the same knot, and test it on the machine, one of you will tighten it better than the other, and I might get 3 different knot tests out of the same knot with the same monofilm. But a good perfection loop is only about 75 or 80% the strength of the line. A good non-slip loop is 100%.
They say that when you wet down the lines, they say don't wet down the floor section.
What he asked is that you wet down fluorocarbon. Yes, you wet down because you don't want to build up any heat. Yeah.
I have a question about spider hitches and doubling up.
Spider hitches ain't worth a damn.
Well, that's what I was asking, because when you go out of the country and you're out popping fishing, they're doubling up lines and
well, the lines no good.
And I want to know why they do it.
Well, because they don't know how to make a bimini twist. I don't know how many of you know what a spider hitch is, but a spider hitch is where you put a loop out here, and then you wind this around here 5 times, and put this back through here, and pull it tight. Now, what happens here is that when you pull this tight, that's how it leads long. I have to remember how to tie it. Throw the loop. This is such a useless. Yeah. I haven't tied this so bad because it's such a bad knot. Now, you guys up front here can see this. When you pull this tight, I'm tightening this up, you can see that this is real loose back here and real tight right there. What's happening when you pull a spider hitch down, where it came out of here, is these turns here are real tight. These back here are still open, and no knot breaks till it slips. So, if you set the handle. What happens, if you pull steady all the time, it'll slowly come tight. But fish don't do that, they jerk. What happens is, where this slung comes out, it's real tight here and this is loose, this throttles or strangulates this thing, and this knot will break right there where it comes out. Since I got old hands anymore, I'm going to have to put it around.
So you're saying just to make the bimini twist?
Yeah, yeah.
And you said you have to learn that.
But watch this break right where it comes out. Right where that comes out, it'll break. See, it breaks right there where it came out. See it? Right where it came out, it breaks. So, you don't want to use that. There's a couple things, well, that's hard to show a bunch of people. There's a couple things about bimini twist that's not good, it's not a good idea to know. I mean, not going to get off of this knot business now. When you make bimini twist, we never used to call this bimini twist, by the way. It was 20 times around knot. If you put your hand back here, if you put it here and it slips off, you lose it. If you put it behind your wrist, you don't lose it. People say this is a terrible knot to tie, it takes so long and all. You can tie, I'm doing it slow and normal, you can do this in about 15 seconds. Now, if you put this over your hand, over your knee, what you really want is a bimini twist to end up with these things laid together. They will not do that unless this bead touches your leg. So, what I'm going to do, and I know you can't see much back there, bring us down to here. Now, if I did that, I can do that knot that way. I don't have to put all them fingers in there and all that stuff, see? Now, you only need to make one knot around here to lock this thing. And now if you look at this, it's all twisted together. See it? And I know this shouldn't even do this way, you can't see it. Push the finger around. Most people that finish a bimini twist, and I can show you this close up, anybody's interested later, they use 3 turns here. They come loose. Instead, if you make 6 turns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, if you try to close this, and I know you all can't see this, it will all come back in the garbage pile. If you put the tag end back here and pinch here, you can unwind these things so that all those twists come out. And now when you pull on this, it comes down perfect, and you can pass it around. Look at this thing. Now let me trim that once. And if you want to look at this, you're glad to look at it. It looks like a rod wrap when you get done. Are there any more questions about knots?
That's what you need.
Yep.
Not a question about a knot, but it's 3:30. As long as the weather is holding, do you want to go outside for that?
Yeah, would you all rather go out and do some more casting, or we can go back and ask questions later, but do you have a question?
I was just going to ask about thread.
About what?
How to set thread.
What is that?
Setting thread.
Oh, yeah. Wipe your lips dry. So you ain't got no lips or any chapstick. Adjust your drag with your lips pressed against there so you can no longer strip it off. That's between 12 and 14 ounces. That's all you need for drag for anything except tarpon and billfish. And then what you do is, because then what happens, fish runs, you drop it there. What you do then, when you got a bluefish or an albie or anything on there, you got the line here under your finger. See it? Now, good thing. What you do is you can stop the fish anytime you want by putting this on here. You follow me? You're winding, cracking, all of a sudden he takes off. You go like that, there's no drag. Now you want to get him back, all you do, you use your fingers on here. Don't use the mechanical drag, because the mechanical drag often takes at least almost twice as much. If you set it for 3 pounds, it takes almost 6 pounds. It's like having a car. When you have a car that's stalled and you want to get it moving, it's hard to get it moving, but then once you get it moving, it'll roll. Same thing with a drag. So if you have this thing on a light drag and suddenly the fish pulls away, take your fingers off, he's running on your 14 ounces, he ain't going to break your tippet, and you can back in here and either thumb the side or trap it here. Yeah, and except for billfish and tarpon, I use 2 pounds on them, but that's all you ever need for any of those.
How do you judge the 2 pounds?
We use the scales.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, you use the scale too. Yeah.
Talking about billfish and tarpon, and we were talking earlier about how you don't raise the rod and you pull back. Would you say, because I've spoken to somebody else who brings in the fish very quickly, sailfish and bills, he lets the fish run on very light drag and jump as much as he wants until he tires himself out. And as soon as he starts jumping, that's when he puts the pressure on completely.
This tarpon and everything?
Tarpon, big fish.
That's not a good idea. Would you go over there and all the way to the corner with the end line? The best guy in the world to fight big tarpon is do that fight tarpon with 6 feet of line outside. I want you to see something. We can't go, you got a good grip on it. Wrap it down a handle. Yeah, thanks. Now, this line's relatively tight right now, okay? Watch how far I can walk. No, watch me.
Okay, stretch it.
I've walked 6 feet. There's 6 feet of stretch or more between me and him. There's at least 12 feet of stretch in an 8-weight line. You get a tarpon on here, and you let him run out that line, and you're backing, and you're pulling, you ain't pulling no tarpon, you're pulling stretch. So what you really want to do is get your boat or your tarpon as close as you can to you. Now, you got a good grip on it?
Yeah.
Now look, now it's tight, see it? Now I can only move that far. See it? Now, up to here. Now when I pull on that fish, I'm moving that fish. When I was just that far away, I had to pull 8 feet or 6 feet of stretch out of the fly line before I was even moving the fish. No, that guy don't know what it's
The question is, how do you get the tarpon to you?
Well, what you do is you run the boat. You ain't waiting for tarpon.
No.
You got a boat. So
You chase him down.
you get as close to the tarpon as you possibly can. You want to keep as short a line as possible, and you want to keep this thing here. And anytime he jumps, you bounce it. You bounce off it. If a rainbow trout jumps, people say, well, he's going to fall on a leader. That ain't what the problem is. If you hook a big brown trout or rainbow trout or any jumping fish, particularly with trout flies, you only got a little bit of meat. If he comes up and this thing's tight, he can tear the hook loose from the meat. What you want to do is throw slack. So all he can do is flop around with the fly. But the moment the fish is back in the water, you're here. The other thing is that if come out to the end of the table, it's right in front of the plates. Yeah, come on, then come on. Yeah. What I'd like you to do, and this is how you get the big trout. Point your rod, hand. Now, when I move the rod to the left, point your hand toward the end of the rod. If I'm pulling straight like this, the fish can, if he's going the other way, he can resist max. In fact, if you put this up in a vertical orbit position, and the fish is downstream, he's laying there resting. Have you ever hooked a stick in the current? Bend the hell out of your rod and they ain't doing nothing. That's what that trout's doing when you're in a vertical orbit position. What you have to do is you have to put an angle on a fish. Under 40 feet, you want to fish any fish with side pressure. Now, if you would just point the, now if you put this over here, you see his hands on an angle. What's going to happen now is the water and the current's going to go down against his arm, and he's going to move over to the left now. He wants to get in a position, no, right, I'm sorry. Now point the rod at the rod. Point at the rod. Point the hand at the rod. Yeah. Now you see he's resting again. See it? So as soon as you get over there, he's resting. When the fish is at right angles to the handle of the rod, he's resting. Now, when he gets over there, what you would do, you get a couple cranks. Then you go back like this. Now, when you get on the other side low, see, that's what he's doing. You're getting a couple cranks each time. You go like this, you can wind fish right up on the bank. The other thing is, if you ever hook any kind of good-sized fish in a stream, get out of the water. If you hook a nice steelhead or a Atlantic salmon or something, don't stand out in water up to here. He's got all the advantages. Get on the bank on a gravel bar, and if you're doing this, you can slide the fish right up on the gravel bar.
Stripes too.
Yeah, anything. Yeah. Well, you want to use the wave to get them. Do you all know about using the wave to get them in? As the waves come in, put low side pressure, and when the fish is on the back side of the wave, I either run like hell or wild like hell and ski right up on the bank and whatever what's going on. Okay, we'll go out and do some casts. Thanks a lot. And then never yes. Can you wait till
What is going on with you?
Sounding great. Great. Now you would not be here. You've done a great job. And continue to shape many lives. Thank you very much.
Hi, Bob.
Can you hear?
Yes.
I've belonged to this club for so long. And you people are part of something that John Avendolio, Dennis O'Brien, we built, we worked, and we just love the way you all get together and have such a good time. And having someone like Lefty here just doubles it. Makes everything so wonderful. I'm so proud to have gotten such a gift. This is such a wonderful time. And this guy is like my son. I couldn't like it. I look at him now, and I can't keep up with him.
I want to go have fun.
Oh boy. Well, thank you so much. But I had to say,
As we near the conclusion and we can start the dinner and festivities, there's also one big important note. I wish to thank one of our most important contributors this year to the conclave and from the many past conclaves that he's attended. This conclave has been very successful and special. We couldn't have gotten this without Mr. Lefty Kreh coming up and giving his gracious time, his knowledge. Actually, we've asked one of my also second mentors here, Ms. Betty Ann Tierman, to come up and say a few kind words for Mr. Lefty Kreh. Betty Ann,
I have to bring my notes because I'm afraid I'll forget something. When Brian asked me to say something about Lefty Kreh, I have to move so I can see him. I said certainly, and then when I sat down to actually write something, I said I don't even know where to begin. I emailed a friend of ours, Joe Keegan, and he's known Lefty for years. And I thought that he was going to share some funny stories with me so I could share them with you. I got his reply almost instantly through the internet. It was there, and his comment and his reply was, leave the comedy to Lefty. And so I shall. You know, when this club was young, some 38 years ago, Lefty was there with them as he is today. I've seen Lefty in pictures from 1967, and they were at the Conclave at Shelter Island. I understand they had that many times there. I know Lefty's been to a few conclaves. I met him in 1996 or 7, I don't remember which. All I know is that I had heard so much about him that I couldn't wait to meet him. He had been in Montauk fishing, and he was coming to the Soundview to be the guest speaker, but he just didn't know how he was going to get here. And I understand that someone offered him a ride by boat, but he was also known for his speed, so Lefty declined, saying, is there anyone known in the Soundview and on the North Fork? I need a ride. And a young man named Steve offered him a ride and drove him over, and when they walked into the hospitality suite, everyone was so happy to see Lefty, but they were also very curious about who this young man was. Was he Lefty's ward? Was he someone so special that had been taken under the master's wing? Well, I'll tell you something. This kid was just in the right place at the right time. And the look on his face, I wish we had photographed it for posterity, because he was walking on a cloud. And that was the night I met Lefty. And since neither one of us are big nighttime fishermen, we sat in the hospitality suite talking. And I was new to fly fishing and very timid about taking the fish off the hook and so that it would survive and I could release it alive and all this, because I had been conventional fishing for a long time. And there you weren't so careful, because usually it was dinner. So you didn't quite worry about it so much. Lefty sat with me and he told me that I could lift the fish out of the water with my palm and kind of center him and he would go to sleep. Well, I tried it the next day and it worked. And every time I hear him tell somebody about that, I have fond memories. Lefty has many books on the market. Some of them have been revised 3 to 4 times. He can give you direction on fresh water and how to throw a line in the salt. Knots, leaders, flies, tackle, makes no difference. He can help you with it. And I'm here tonight to say thank you for being with us. Thank you for all the time you spent with us today. Thank you for always being there, always being our club friend, and always a phone call away. And just for all the supporting information that you give that keeps this sport going. Guess what? We love you.
Anybody want last-minute raffles?
You remember that?
And Orbis, without a doubt, for the 3rd year in a row, has given the grand prize a full outfit, fishing outfit, top flight, iron, reel, rod. So once again, it should be a good lot. We have a terrific amount of material. We have Lefty Kreh books, and we have an original artwork by a fellow well-known, nationally known artist. It was made by Michael Lenihan, who also did a very good job for us. So we're ready to start.
Can I have a Coke for your
Also, again, there has been a fly box that's been recovered, and Steve Appel at room 47 is still holding on to a fly box. If anyone has missed any fly, a couple of poppers, some more spinning gear. And also, for any of you guys who still have not got your salty t-shirts, Steve Appel again in room 47 has remaining t-shirts for all the people that haven't picked one up yet. So please feel free to go down to the room after this is all over and pick up your t-shirt. Thank you.
First prize to be awarded will be a Temple Force 2-piece 10-weight.
Temple Force 2-piece 10-weight is the first prize.
Did you pick up the papers?
Gary Stewart.
Gary Stewart. Oh, Stewart. Gary Stewart.
Certificate get credit against the Marriott Classic or CBR Reel.
That's too long for me to say.
That's it. Gene Klein.
Gene Klein. Gene Klein. Gene Klein. Gene Klein. Not here right now. But he is here.
He is here.
Gene Klein.
Gene Klein is the double conclave trip.
That is true.
I'll move this. That's okay. Just get
Hey, Rob, make sure you get
for them is basically help and support it. They're a very nice group. This one is a very nice, it's a flat, just because you get cold tonight, and then there's a hat.
And winner of this is Diane Cassidy. Diane Cassidy. Diane Cassidy. Down the jetty, that's it, go for blues. You didn't see that, come on now.
This is a police vest with ESPN again.
Police vest, ESPN logo, goes out to Gary Schwartz. Gary Schwartz.
Don't keep you warm. The next prize is a half-day trip.
Next is a half-day fishing trip with Mr.
Robin Calitri.
Robin Calitri, Captain Calitri is the next trip, half-day trip.
take it up good.
Arthur Tasker.
Arthur Tasker. Arthur.
Very good. He'll get us on fish.
Great job. Great job. Great one.
This is a collection of Lefty books. This is 4 books.
4 books of Lefty's finest artwork.
His latest, his newest, and his oldest.
Autographed. Oldest to newest.
And it could be autographed because he happens to still be here.
It can be autographed. It may be autographed.
Maybe.
Donnie Allen. Donnie Allen.
This is a bass bag, but it's a freshwater bass bag. However, it does fit 4-piece rods. Put 3 of them in here and carrying them on an airplane with no hassle.
3-piece travel luggage carrying 3 4-piece rods.
not. This is my first conclave. I've been to your meetings.
Another ESPN t-shirt.
Certificate of $100 for the large arbor Marriott Reel.
$100 gift ticket for the large arbor Marriott Reel.
ESPN beer can.
Another ESPN beer can holder. Or depending upon who is it, Coke can holder. Or a Pellegrino on Bill Steele.
Congratulations, Scotty.
Mr. John Anastasi. John Anastasi. You on it.
Hey, John.
John Anastasi. You on it. What's going on? You know what's going on? Walking, waiting, and hiking.
Mark Tasker.
Mark Tasker. Wait a minute. Somebody's got to be shaking.
Out of the way.
Next prize is going to be an ESPN collapsible cooler. Collapsible, keyword, just collapsible. The next winner for the collapsible cooler is Steve Townsend. Steve Townsend.
Dessert.
Steve Townsend. Thank you, Steve. Next pair is a pair of stainless steel pliers from Dr. Slick. And a gamma hat. So a pair of pliers and a hat from Dr. Slick. Dr. Slick.
They're building up to the good ones to the last, huh? Yeah.
Next one is Donnie Allen. Donnie Allen.
If it's depends, you know. If someone tells me it's jumping,
Jason
I'll
down
go.
for a half-day
It's not
fishing
jumping.
trip will be the next prize awarded. Half-day fishing trip with Captain Jay Down.
You know, if I know that we're going on a boat, that's pretty much a sure thing. Plus the time, he said the place we're
Jackie
going.
O'Connor wins the half-day fishing trip. Jackie O'Connor.
So I can save all my energy for that.
Jackie O'Connor. Next up. Jackie, I put your ticket into the bag. I told you to put it in there. Thanks, Jackie.
You have a digital still camera? Yes.
The next prize
Not with me.
is going to be the flat fishing line.
Nikon.
T450 saltwater fishing line.
I got a cheap one because
Cluepix?
Yeah, I got a cheap one because
that rotates.
Yeah, no, the newer one. The rotating one's old. But I got a cheap one at a closeout. If I get it wet, I throw it out. I told you this one.
I was going to buy one of these weatherproof ones.
They're okay.
The sliders.
Digital, right?
Yeah. What's good for artwork, for color reproduction? Nikon?
They're all
Canon?
They're all good.
I want to take photographs of artwork and then either make prints or t-shirts. They're all good?
Try to get as many megapixels as you can afford. Try to go for 5 megapixels. Whatever's on sale is 5 megapixels.
4 is good enough?
4 is good.
Mr. Robert Osborne. Bob Osborne, come in. Fly tire extraordinaire. Mr. Bob Osborne, fly tire extraordinaire. Oh, that's so good for you. But I can't do it. Ask John Turman. I think the Jiggy don't know. John, don't make me go down the G. Don't let me go see that. This is a rack mount for fly rods on top of a truck, on top of a trailer. Rod mounted fly rods for top of your 4x4 car, SUV, whatever you wish. They're very good. I use them. It works reasonably well. Jamie Bloom, winner of the rod mount for your car. Jamie
What did you get? I want to
sizes.
Last year we did.
Cleaned up 2 years ago. Gotta stop. Everybody's winning 2 and 3 times.
Well, I did that year. I won the reel, the rod, and a couple other things.
The reel was a separate one, and the rod was wow.
He's the next guy to me. How
do you figure?
2 guys away. You're sitting here.
Oh, can't go by that.
So I could get a deal on some closeouts.
Half-day charter with Captain John McMurray. John McMurray in Jamaica Bay, half-day fishing.
That's a good one.
This is the one that Betty Ann Timmerman would like to win. Betty Ann Timmerman.
Look at that reel, man. It's like a 200 Harbor? You just...
Already? No, his dad.
Another stripping basket, collapsible stripping basket again.
Fits into a smaller sack.
Very compact in size. Mr. Jamie Blue. Jamie Blue, winner of the
This one is a Lefty Kreh TV line. This is designed by Lefty, built by TV.
fly fishing line, designed by Lefty, built by T, designed by Lefty.
It has a DVD in it, but it's not there. I just found it.
The DVD is missing.
Where's the lending library? The lending library? Yeah. Very expensive.
Michael J. Rayfeld. Look at Mike. The denial is on his face. Deny.
It's his third prize. Including a fishing trip. be pretty
Great
excellent.
fly tire.
Absolutely.
Jimmy Fletcher from Arkansas Tire to make the next prize.
Perfect. Perfect. It's actually perfect. Rod it.
Jim Wanzalak.
Jim Wanzalak. Mr. Jim Wanzalak.
Any more reels? I need a reel to put in here.
Next prize is another half-day fishing charter with Captain Paul Dixon. Half-day fishing charter with Captain Paul Dixon. The winner goes to Mr. John Anastasi.
You mean if you get a rod, you're going to turn it down?
The next prize is a better. The next prize is a selection of small water flies by none other than Captain Rob Thompson. The wood does not come with it, but the wood comes with it. The fly copy Mr. Rob Thompson.
That's the one with that huge pie.
I like that.
Joanne Seagull.
Joanne Seagull. Joanne Seagull. Joanne.
Nice bag.
Yeah, perfect. Really nice. Throw the wetsuit right in there.
Bill, how do you feel, Bill?
There's a lot of zippers, but I didn't find it.
What's this?
The next prize is the saltwater fishing drawing by Maurice Mahler, wood frame by Mike Waldian, club member.
There's all sorts of straps here. See that?
No, there's a clip. It has a clip on
He's a TGF member who couldn't make tonight's event, and he's a TGF member.
Yeah, but this one.
No, it's I can't find it.
Ashley D. Ivazario. He wanted this a long time ago. He asked me about this morning. Mr. Allen Everland wins the ride. Allen wins something wrong here. I don't think we're going to turn that in. Allen, you're right here. I saw it. Oh, wait. Allen, we need a picture. Otherwise, that ride has to go back into the draw. Take it. Probably have to. Wait, his name tag's upside down. Alan, is that really you? Big smile. The next prize is a fly fishing reel courtesy of the Tybor Company, Tybor Reel.
Good one.
Joe Miller is excluded from this drawing. Bill Steele may fix it.
Go deep.
Mr. John Bowman. John Bowman. With the Tybor Reel. He's not here to receive this tonight. How many hands we should recycle this? Yeah, that's bad.
We're going to do the Orbis Prime.
The next one is the Orbis Complete Outfit. The Orbis Complete Outfit.
Donated from Orbis Greenvale.
Orbis Greenville, Orbis New York and City, and Paramus stores. 3 stores donated the Orbis Complete Outfit again. This is the grand prize. I can't believe this. The winner of the grand prize, someone we all know in this room, Mr. Joel Filmer.
How many rods?
Joel actually is going to put this back in and we're going to try it again. And the winner of the Orbis rod is a good one, Mr. Steve Affeld. I just said I wasn't